So you join me here today, guys, in Alabama for Barber Motorsport. Now today's video is a bit of a what if video because a couple of years ago, during COVID times, this racetrack, I suppose I'll first explain the FIM, FIA grading. So every track that wants to race any top level championship, whether it be Motor America, World Superbikes, Formula 1, Formula E, MotoGP, they'll all have a grading FIM, FIA depending on what championship you're in. And this is a grading 2 or grading B depending on what list you look on. Basically it's second tier, and for MotoGP it has to be top tier. World Superbikes can be second tier, and so on and so forth. Different championships allow different entries. Now this track, during COVID times, I can't find the article, it's definitely a good 4 years old now at this point, but this track was supposed to be upgraded to a top level grading, FIA grading A or grade 1, whatever way you want to look at it, and that would have made it eligible for MotoGP. And at the time, a lot of people were unhappy with COTA. Every time you go there, the surfaces change, and the fact it's built on a bit of a bogland and the track is constantly collapsing. So people wanted other tracks in the USA, and this beauty here in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, built and opened in 2003. This wonderful circuit was really high up the list. A lot of people like this, and I think you'll see from today's video why exactly people really do seem to enjoy Barber Motorsports. It's not a particularly long track. It's used in Motor America currently, which is kind of the top tier bike racing that go there in America, and it's just a hell of fun. If you're following the channel for an extended period of time, you might remember I did a league race here a good few years ago, and a ZX10 got a podium here in the Motor America League. I'm back probably 4 years now, if I can remember how far back it was, but it's such a interesting track. Reminds me of a BSB track. Very fast, very flowy, a lot of elevation. It can be narrow in places, but it is currently FIM, FIA grade B. So currently isn't in the window for MotoGP, but what if it ever got that grade A? This would be a brilliant alternative American track to go to. Really, it's such a fun one, and the thoughts here of going around this track on a MotoGP bike would be pretty cool. To be honest, if you look at this track compared to the shite they've thrown at us over the last 5 years in terms of tracks in the Grand Prix paddock, this is head and shoulders better. Now, of course, safety is always paramount, and would it be safe? Maybe with some investments and stuff, and a bit like that wall there. If you lost it on the entry there, that wall is close, I can imagine. And then there as well, there you could easily have a moment coming over the road, hill, bike goes light. That barrier would want to be pushed back. A lot of them would as well, because on a MotoGP bike you'd be going so fast, a lot of them barriers would end up being way too close. But it's a beautiful track out in the kind of countryside from the overview shots you would have saw at the start, and yeah, it's just so fun to ride. And I've only ever known this track from GP bikes and from basically at league race that I talk about back in 21, 22 time, and I just fell in love with the track then. It's just such a fun track. The bike run here is there's a new Moto2 mod. I will link it down below. Some guys made his first mod, and it's okay. Just something to ride really today. Really kind of tack the track. It's a little bit on the easy side, but that's okay too. I suppose you don't need every mod to be hard to ride. It's probably a little bit too easy for my liking, but fun little mod. There was a couple of servers up the other night with it, and a couple of us were just banging bars in it as well. So it's a decent little mod. Like I said, I will link that down below. But the big question really is, how long more will we go to COTA? Because if every year we go there, there's more issues with the track degrading underneath us, because that track is basically built on a bogland. Many people have talked over the years that, so basically COTA is a very big kind of events park as well. There's concerts going on there, and like you go to concert, you come out after like basically sinking into the ground. So the ground below it is not in great condition. So that track will surely only ever get worse, is the kind of idea behind that. So if we want to continue going to the US of A, which Liberty Media taking the helm, taking the wheel at the top of Grand Prix, it more likely will become a staple of the season that we do go to the States and go over to North America. Obviously we're going to South America now as well, with Brazil and Guyana, but North America will still feature heavily on the calendar, even to the point where I reckon we might get another couple of races. Because if you go back, I suppose if you go back far enough, we had Laguna, we'd Indy and stuff, so we did at some points have 2 races in America where we'd go over for the mid part of the season. So just having COTA now towards the start of the season is a lot less than we used to having the 2 races back probably nearly 20 years ago really. Now if you go back to the mid 2000s, I suppose we haven't gone to Laguna since 2013, and to be honest, 2014 I'm going to say for Indianapolis. And as you can see, there's my brain. The gears in my brain start turning. The writing on screen gets incredibly a lot worse, much faster. But yeah, I think it was 2014 the last time they went there. Was the Mark having 100% record in America up until a couple of years ago, and a lot of them tracks he was never beaten on. So it's some interesting tracks, and I think they've just outgrown really Laguna. So I don't think that'll ever be brought back, because back in the day with Laguna, whenever you bring the smaller classes, it would only ever be... My controller's disconnected. Bruh. As I was saying, we used to never bring the smaller classes. When we went to Laguna, it was always at the summer break time, and it would only be MotoGP, which was just because of the size of the paddock. And basically now the paddock only ever getting bigger. And yeah, even if you go back to like the late 2000s when we went there in Grand Prix, there was only ever about 18 bikes, like, so it was a very small grid at that time. Bigger grids now throughout, so we definitely won't be able to get back there. The Indianapolis, it just didn't seem to get the numbers in, I think was the big thing over the years of that one. Good enough track really, in fairness, but they just couldn't get the bodies through the gate, really was the big thing. And I think Texas and COTA does seem to do well every year. A lot of people from Europe carry or travel over to it, and it's, I think, if you're in South or North America, a lot of people do make the travel to Texas for the Circuit of the Americas. It's a good track. I do actually like it. It's one of my, in terms of riding, I'm not stopping this again, am I? Ooh, just it's one of the tracks I actually do enjoy riding and driving in games and stuff, and I usually have a pretty good decent record there, but for the most part I don't think it's widely loved by a lot of riders. And again, I go back to the conditions of the track, as every year we go there's new issues and stuff because of the way it deteriorates away underneath the ground. So it's only a matter of time, I think, before we probably maybe don't go back there. And you kind of wonder then, would Formula 1 follow suit if the track keeps deteriorating, because it would get to a point where it was very steep. I can't think of the name, turn 1, it's Big Red I think it's called, and then you drop down through turn 2, and every year you come back there, that's more and more rippled as the tarmac essentially crushes itself and kind of ripples itself down the hill as the track deteriorates underground, and it kind of just makes these ripples. I remember Elias Spargaro many years saying this place was unfit for purpose with the way the track was so ripply. And I think one weekend he had like 4 individual crashes in that corner. He said the bike just was unrideable through there, and so it's a interesting track, but oh, that's a big crash. It was just one of those ones where when it was first built, probably not built on the right ground. I think, I'm not really sure who exactly decided to build it on that land, really, because it's been an issue really since the word go. For the first few years we went there, it was fine, but as the subsidence, you could say, kind of took over, it really did kind of affect the racing, because it's very ripply now from IndyCar going there. Of course, Formula 1 destroy the surface every time they go with the high G's and the downforces, but it's an interesting one. But today, Barber Motorsport, just a real interesting track, a fun little race track. I'd love to see what a MotoGP bike would be like around this place. Of course, this Moto2 bike I think is just a bit easier today to ride around there. It's quite a technical little track, because as it would probably focus more on the layout now in the next lap or two, but you've this real fast chicane here, 4th, 3rd gear on a Moto2 bike, and you can pick up the power out onto the curb, try get back before you touch the grass, and then you've this real interesting little reverse kind of downhill chicane corkscrew thing, which then comes up to a little bit of a crest, and the bike gets light. You see it's spinning, then you go into this real fast 100-mile-an-hour at the apex, really there into that right-hander, and then it's a bit like a Sepang penultimate corner as it constantly tightens, the radius gets tighter and tighter, then into final corner, which is probably the least interesting corner of the track, and then you've a little short straight into turn 1, which is a real interesting one again. Just harden the brakes, the track falls away from you, try and hit the apex at turn 1, immediately go back uphill and into a long kind of snailing corner where the track just starts to drop way here from you. The front feels like it's never going to bite, and then you bottom out here, and then you really just attack this part of the track. You can see the bike goes light right out, and again then you've a massive downhill braking zone where I cannot stop this bike in here. This time is no different, just about stops it from crashing, and then you go back around for another roller coaster. You have a very fast downhill section. It's just a really interesting track. It's so fun to ride for me. I think it's just one of those tracks where it's a real rider's track, and I think this would be loved if we ever got to go there. And I think even maybe not MotoGP, because they're currently not eligible, and that has all gone quiet over the recent times. with the grading not being changed. But maybe World Superbikes need to get back to America and get to Barber Motorsports. I think that would be pretty incredible seeing close to GP bike speeds around here on the World Superbike stage. So it's a great little venue, and I'd love to see it more used, and I'd love to see it used by something in the world feed, really, so that I could get some action over here. I do watch the Moto America when I can. I have seen races from here, and they do provide some decent races, these little tracks in America. Some very good tracks in America. Issues with them is grading. You've like Road Atlanta, Road America, you've this here in Barber Motorsport, you've a couple of other little gems around the states, and I suppose up in Canada you've one or two as well. So there's definitely tracks here in America. It'll be interesting over the next 5 years or so, I suppose, with Liberty Media taking real kind of grip and taking the strains at the top. What will actually happen to American MotoGP? Will it become bigger like it has in F1? F1 now has, off the top of my head, I'm going to say 5 races in America. Vegas, Miami, COTA. I think there's one more. Maybe it's 3. Yeah, I think off the top of my head it might be 3 actually, but I feel like there's more. And to be honest, none of them are very good. In fact, that MotoGP were linked with the street circuit in Miami. That was just a terrible idea. That should never go ahead. Neither should Adelaide, really, but here we are. If you did watch my previous video with the losing Phillip Island, that's a pretty sad video in a way. And I think everyone in the comments was pretty much in agreement to that it's the wrong decision to leave Phillip Island to go to a street circuit, which is proven over the years to be not so safe in V8 supercars. A lot of people were pointing to certain corners that are just not safe and stuff. So it's yeah, in a world we live in today where safety is put first, it's a bit of an unfortunate one. But anyway, guys, we're going to leave it there. Hope you have enjoyed this little tour of Barber Motorsport here in Alabama. One of my favourite circuits in the US of A. And hopefully one day we might see some world level racing at this racetrack. Guys, thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. See you in a future video. Slán go fóill, Buachaillí.